But Gino De Paoli calls Okotoks Oilers games, formerly Whitecourt Wolverines, and in the SJ with Melfort, Humboldt, and Nipawin. Stamps fan too, I understand. Let's bring in Gino today. We've been trying to get a hold of him for a while to talk some Junior A hockey. How you doing, Gino?
Doing awesome, Rod. Glad to actually be on the show. Love what you guys are doing. And it's pretty much, I kind of look at what you guys have been doing, kind of what I got into radio and how it started in Saskatchewan. We were covering all the local angles, and the Riders were the exception to that rule. The NHL took a back seat. So I'm excited for this for sure.
Well, and that's the thing. We got a lot to cover with you, Gino, so get comfortable. And I appreciate you coming on today, by the way. Just can we start on that Junior A vein? You're situated in Okotoks. What's happening with the AJ season? Are you guys playing? Like, it's a little confusing from province to province. What's the deal?
Well, the AJ is playing. They played games this weekend. There has been the odd suspension of play because of COVID cases that have come up or potential COVID cases. So games have been postponed, not canceled. Obviously, the league had released there was a positive case. And they're all split into different cohorts because the league is so stretched out. You've got one division where it's Spruce Grove playing Fort McMurray. They played yesterday. And then there's one with Whitecourt, Drayton Valley, and Grand Prairie. And there's cases in that one just from the league release. I won't go into detail on that one because I don't know how many, but they have canceled games. And the same is kind of said for another cohort between Drumheller and Camrose and Olds. And there was a postponement the other day just to gain the return of a COVID test. And unfortunately, the cohort that I'm part of, I'm not in the cohort at all. So let's make that real. I don't get to interact with anybody. Is Okotoks, Brooks, and Calgary. They're in their own cohort, and they've had some postponements, and there was cancellations due to a positive test. I won't go into detail. I don't know who the player is. That's all I can tell you on that front. They are playing games, and they did about a 3 or 4 week schedule where you played the same teams over and over again in a home-and-home situation or a day off, and that was going to conclude this weekend anyway. So the Oilers, unfortunately, with the positive test, they're shut down for 2 weeks, kind of like how the Kelowna Rockets are in the Western Hockey League. They're following the exact same sort of model in that aspect. If there's a positive case, you're shut down completely for 14 days, and you just wait. We wait and see, and that's all that really can happen. So I had no games the past weekend, so I had a pretty quiet Easter.
Well, happy belated Easter to you, by the way. And I understand it's an Alberta holiday, so I guess we're still on it. I don't know if you can see comments coming in. Ryan Schweitzer of Swift Current City Council writes in, Gino, good to see your friendly face in the Daily Scroll. There you go from Schweitz. So, Gino, little bit of news coming up with the BC Hockey League informing the CJHL that their intentions to break off from the umbrella that governs all of Canadian Junior A hockey. What do you know about it? What's the latest, and how's it been received?
Well, I can't speak too much on the BCHL. There was always rumors of this, and it kind of goes back to when you broke that the Super League talks where there'd be the odd AJ team joining the BCHL to make their own league because, for whatever reason, I will confirm with the Okotoks Oilers, they have not had any of that. The thing that kind of started this goes way back before even my time in the league, where there was talks, and the big key part of that was the price of oil in Alberta. Does everybody remember those days when the price of oil was over $100 a barrel?
Long time ago, yep.
Yeah, well, that paid for my college tuition every summer working the rigs, right? Working construction. So, and that's not there anymore. So that's kind of the big thing there. There was always talks, and Okotoks was in them, and it was only a pipe dream. There was never any formal discussion ever. It was always kind of, well, this could work. Like you always thought about the powerhouses. This is when Grand Prairie was just booming. They're coming around. The Storm has done very well getting back to some of their glory days. Fort McMurray is always in the talks, and Brooks, how successful they've been, and Okotoks was in those conversations too. But nothing has really accumulated, and nobody from the AJHL is at this point going that direction for the BCHL. And it doesn't shock me that BC wants to do their own thing, because have they not done their own thing as far as I can remember in Junior A? They are pretty good at what they do for recruiting. They just want to take to the next level, and because players are going to the USHL or NCAA schools are wanting them to go that route. So that's, a hair on them for that. It's a huge hit for recruiting. no matter what. But as a Super League with the AJ, there's nobody involved in that at this moment anyway, and that's from good sources that I've got.
Oh, interesting. Well, obviously, I've heard differently from some of those teams. One of them saying we're gone, and these are the teams that are coming with us. So I guess we'll see on that. But what about? It was a scout, by the way, that told me in the Brand Center last week that the intention is to be a USHL division. Let's just forget about Alberta. Those BC teams would be a northern division of the USHL. Could you see that? And could you speak, by the way, to the perception of USHL hockey as opposed to Major Junior and Junior A in Canada, or even the NAHL in America?
Well, to me, the USHL is a really good junior. It's an elite junior A league like the BCHL or the AJ. They have their own sort of realm. They can kind of recruit from all over is kind of the big thing there. And so can BC, and so can Alberta, and so can any other team. There is some restrictions on imports, obviously, still, but I don't have the best intel in the USHL, but they can pull from just about anywhere is kind of the big thing. And I think that's the biggest discussion that, well, they're pulling these kids maybe at 16 and waiving that. And some like if you're from Alberta, you can't go to a different province and play until you're 18, you're a legal adult. There's some of those rules change, and I think that's the big thing why the BC wants to get that much better to just try and compete in the USHL, because they can do that.
Wow, interesting. By the way, Robin Wildy with a great question. He's a PA guy, but he's a huge hockey guy, and he says, what is the buzz around the AJ with Black Falls coming in? And I would ask the same question. Black Falls, very active on social media. They have looks like a new facility, right? What's up with the Black Falls Bulldog? Are they playing?
No, they're supposed to play this coming season. That is their inception season. They kind of got lucky. They didn't have to go through a pandemic in their first season. Brand new, beautiful facility in Black Falls. They're going to be run by a pretty good guy who knows a lot about, back in the TELUS Cup days. Doug Quinn is going to, he's going to make things interesting. And it's from that move from the Calgary Mustangs, formerly the Calgary Royals, from back in the day, for those that really want to go into the vault. It just made the South Division so much better. They've recruited some already committed players, some elite players that are going to come in. They're going to be a little bit younger, but we'll see. I think with Doug's connections with Red Deer in the past and his pipeline of hockey personnel, they're going to be super competitive. And when you have a facility, it's kind of the old saying, if you build it, they will come. It looks immaculate. And I'm looking forward to calling games in Black Falls, because I'm tired of to be honest, I was tired of the free spot on the bingo card for most nights when it was playing the Mustangs and the Oilers. It was not a fun atmosphere to be of. And you want to earn and get better. And to be honest, there's only 3 or 4 teams at any time in the South, because you'd have those gimmies. And I don't think it's going to be a gimme with Black Falls any night, and that's exactly what this league needs to get more competitive.
Awesome chat. Gino De Paoli is the voice of the Okotoks Oilers. Now, to the NHL, just pretend for a second you're the general manager of the Calgary Flames. What are you doing right now and for the rest of the year and into the offseason, assuming this doesn't turn around?
Well, to just kind of follow up on that one a little bit, I'm not buying at the deadline. Why would you? I think this is the year, if you have to have an off year or be bad when nobody's around and there's not much revenue being made anyway, why wouldn't you potentially blow up the team? I don't think it'll happen. I just think there will be still some faith in some players. If you can get something, there was the biggest rumor yesterday that David Riddick was on the trading block, which, okay, cool. That doesn't really bother me any. He played well last night enough. And the last 2 games that Calgary played against Edmonton and Toronto, I think they were very winnable games. They just couldn't hit the broadside of the barn, and they couldn't score, plain and simple. And that's what's killed them this year. And now maybe you're going to start. And if you can sell Johnny Gaudreau, I don't think it's a good idea. I still think I love what he does as a member of the Calgary Flames. But if you're going to get something, I guess, that's the time to do it. I'd definitely be a seller at the deadline. But do you have anything that's that viable to sell that you don't want to keep, or is everybody off the board or is available? Like even Jacob Markstrom, who just signed his deal, is somebody going to make a pitch? I don't think anybody's going to eat that salary, and that's the biggest problem. Every general manager, it doesn't matter if you're in junior or not, they're going to make you eat something, or they'll sit and okay, we'll get them later sort of a situation. It's always a buyer's market and a seller's market, but there's always guys out there that want to kind of they're going to make you sweat a little bit. So I don't know what Calgary's going to really have. They're going to have to throw in somebody maybe they don't want to. Maybe I don't think Matthew Tkachuk is untouchable anymore, because he's definitely seen a drop, and he's only in this will be year one of his 3-year deals. So there's options available for Calgary to go, but is it going to fix the problem long term? Your drafting has been okay. You have players like Matt Phillips, played in the Western League with the Victoria Royals, was outstanding and doing well in the A over point per game. Are you going to go into that after the deadline, where if you can move some players? Derek Ryan's available allegedly. So I'm selling. I'm definitely not buying.
Scott on Twitter says, yeah, they need a major deal in the sense of trading. Where did it go? Trading Monahan and Gaudreau and getting some young prospects and picks back. This team's been spinning the hamster wheel for 10 years with a good season here and there, but then right back to average or below average, because it looks like they're going to miss the playoffs. Wayne Rosnowski is watching in Lethbridge. He says Junior A Super League talk has been around for years. At one time it was Dauphin, a few Alberta clubs, Fort Mac, Grand Prairie, BC clubs, similar to the USHL. Well,
yeah, that's exactly what I got too.
Right. Well, just because it's been around for years doesn't mean it's not going to happen. I guess at some point they might jump off the cliff. I guess we'll find out. And hey, Crowsey's watching. Brandon Crow, the voice of the Brandon Wheat Kings, writes in. He says, my old roommate loves seeing the Italian Stallion on the big screen. There you go, Gino, from the voice of the Brandon Wheat Kings. Brandon Crow.
Back in the CJVR days, we stayed in the same house, at Ken Singer's house. I think we called it the De Paoli Ranch at one point, which was super weird. But home
of the Melfort Shuffle. Lastly, Gino, I never really knew you. I never really knew you as a football guy, but are you a Stamps fan? Am I right in that?
You could call me a Stamps fan. It's one of those things, and it's hard because I love your guys' chats about the CFL. That's the only way I know what's going on in the CFL right now, to be quite honest, is see what you guys are talking about. And no, it's interesting. I kind of went on a pivot. As a kid, I didn't really care for the NFL because I didn't know a whole lot about it. I liked the Denver Broncos, and that's because that was the only team we got back on the farm on Peasant Vision, and that was only during the playoffs, and they won back-to-back Super Bowls. So I was kind of entrenched with the old school when Henry Burrs came back, and that sort of era of the Stampeders after the Kevin Federick days. Let's not bring that one back up. I'm sure you remember it quite well. It's tough because there's a lot of the guys that I know that are football fans in Calgary. They're diehard McMahon. There are the diehards of McMahon. They obviously don't compare to what's happening in Regina with the Riders and with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, but some people are absolutely crushed. There may not be football, but I think the sad thing is, a lot of people aren't going to really care if they don't have football again, which is the sad part about that. But yeah, I'll always be a Stamps fan first. People tried to convert me to a Rider fan when I moved here and started. I said, not a chance. I can't do it. I just couldn't do it. And of course, I was the 13th man incident in the year after. And I was at Daryl Mann's house, the coach of the Melfort Mustangs, watching the Grey Cup in the rematch against Montreal. And I was sticking it to him. And I'm surprised I didn't die, to be honest, leaving that house. But obviously that's just kind of my sort of set with the Stamps that, yeah, they will be my team. It'll be sad if this league can't get going in Calgary. I think there's too many people that enjoy the McMahon experience. I always loved the Labor Day games against Edmonton. I know the Banjo Bowl and all that is special, but it would always land on my dad's birthday, which always was huge. And obviously he passed away a couple years ago, and that's kind of the one memory I had was watching Stamps Eskimos. So I'm going to miss the Stamps if they don't keep going. So I will take whatever comes this way to keep football in Canada. I don't care if it's 4 downs, 5 downs, fan selection. I don't care. I just want football.
Yeah, that's the sense that I'm getting, and that's certainly the way that I feel. But it's unthinkable to think that we might be at the end, but I don't, for the time being, see any other way. Gino, thanks for this. Thanks for all of your support of everything that I've done, and good luck out there with the season, and let's do it again soon. Stay safe.
You too, Rod. Thanks for having me on.
Gino De Paoli, the voice of the Okotoks Oilers.
You're watching Rod Pedersen On Demand. For more of The Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpedersen.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.